Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Emily Haller at Sibos 2015 and I'm here with Tony Freeman of DTCC. Thank you very much for joining me, Tony.
No problem, it's a pleasure.
So, what have your impressions been of this Sibos?
Well, Singapore Sibos has been a great success for us. I really like Singapore. It's a great city, good place to do business. I particularly like the multicultural aspect of the city, and that's actually something I've noticed quite a lot about Sibos this year. There's a significantly larger number of women, I think, attending this Sibos. I've been to 13 Siboses, and every year I think the number of women who are attending goes up, but I think there's a big jump this year from last year to this year, which is a good thing. I mean, for example, I went to a presentation panel discussion earlier today on a new Chinese payment system called SIPS. All 4 presenters were female. That's probably not something you would see in London or New York or any other mainstream city. So I think that's a big step forward. It's a big improvement for this event.
So speaking of China, have you been following the discussion around the progress of RMBs?
Yes, I mean, we have many clients in China. It's a subject we follow quite intently, and there's been a lot of China RMB content at this event, which I like very much. The big picture here is that China is a very young and immature market, and there's a long way to go, and there's huge scope and huge growth potential for this market. So if you go back 4 or 5 years, I remember the discussion about China having effectively 2 currencies, an onshore and an offshore currency, CNY and CNH, as we called it, and everybody said this is difficult, impossible, it doesn't fit the model, they can't do this, etc. But we found ways to work around it, and there's still 2 currencies. In fact, technically there may be more. But it all works. We found solutions. Over the past year or 2, it's been the same with the Stock Connect project. We're linking Hong Kong and Shanghai together. It's a very different model from other markets, very demanding in terms of timing. The operational processes are very different. But again, we found ways to work around it. So I think the lessons learned by the Chinese regulators will be that people will often complain about things, but actually they'll be able to accommodate them when they really want to. So as Stock Connect process is expanded out to other markets such as London, we shouldn't expect them to change their timings and processes to accommodate, because they've learned that people will be able to work around it.
And have you learned any new words here? Yeah,
there's a new word I learned today actually, disharmonisation. Maybe it's not a new word, but it's a phrase I hadn't heard before, and it was being discussed in the context of organisations like DTCC and our peer group working together to try and overcome some of the regulatory issues that we've seen over the past few years. There is a lack of harmonisation amongst regulators in terms of data standards, timings, high-level agreement on the objectives of some regulations between the Americas, Europe and Asia. They're sometimes quite different. And for organisations like ours, that causes complexity and that causes excess cost down to our customers. So I think there's an emerging consensus amongst service providers and utilities like the DTCC that we can work together, we can cooperate with each other to try and address this disharmonisation issue.
Tony, thank you for speaking with me.
It's a great pleasure.
And thank you for watching.